Another trail closed because of ice. There's got to be a better way. After 5 months of snow and ice up here in Minnesota, I'm sick of this bull crap. Lord, take me away! Is this heaven?
No, son, you're in Arkansas.
Cool.
The Ozark Highlands Trail is located in northwest Arkansas. Traditionally, the trail stretched 165 miles from Lake Fork Smith to Woolum. Recently, the OHT added a 43-mile segment that is still called the Buffalo River Trail and other non-contiguous segments. The traditional path is now referred to as the Boston Mountains segment. In 2018, I headed out to thru-hike the OHT from Lake Fork Smith. Just 32 miles down the trail at Fane Creek, I had to quit due to a family emergency. Here's a link to that video. In 2019, Rob and I had an awesome 54-mile hike from the Ozone trailhead back to Fane Creek. Here's a link to that video. This year, I plan to complete the traditional portion of the trail and hike the remaining 79 miles from Ozone to Woolum. We are back out on the Ozark Highland Trail. I have my trusty companion Krusty along. It's been raining for 11 days straight. Big thunderstorm last night. We have to walk through some creeks today. Are you excited about that?
Yes and no. I'm excited now, but give me an hour.
Let's go.
All right.
On day one, we headed out from Ozone and hiked 12 miles through the Rosetta Trailhead to Hobo Falls to camp. We entered the forest with both literal and figurative clouds overhead. Even though we were escaping the real world, concerns over the COVID-19 pandemic were at the front of our minds. The unprecedented situation made us worry about society, the safety and health of our families, our own health as we are isolated, and concerns of unknowingly spreading the virus.
Well, we've hiked about 6.5 miles. We're at about 91.5. Stopping for a late lunch. It's probably 2:30, 3 o'clock. Starving. While I was hiking, you know, I carried this Garmin inReach with me. And while I was hiking, it beeped, and I've never heard it beep like that before. My wife sent me a message saying one of her friends thinks that that works for the state patrol thinks that the state of Minnesota is going to go on lockdown within the next 48 hours. So being out in the middle of the woods in Arkansas, I don't know really what that means, but you know, my wife's at home with my 3 daughters, 2 of which who are adults, and I think they're adequately prepared. So but I'll have to keep on checking in with her and making sure that they're all right. But it's nice to take a break from all that negative news and get out here on the trail. All right, my first real big problem of the trip. Stopped here to eat my first lunch, and I plan to eat some beef sticks and goldfish. I open up my food bag grab my beef sticks, and they're all moldy. So, and there's really no question. It's like, look at that. Woo, yummy. So, I guess I'm just eating goldfish for lunch. I did pack an extra ramen noodles into my pack at the last minute because we're gonna have to hike an extra day. So if need be and I get hungry these first 3 days before our resupply, I can eat that ramen. We have made it to the Rosetta trailhead where there is a box to register. I have filled out the card and there's a nice little map on the box that shows that we have about 2 miles to go. It's starting to cool down a little bit, so once we get to camp we'll probably have to put on some more clothes, but looks like it's downhill and not too many more creeks here to cross yet today, so we expect to be there in probably less than an hour. We made it to Hobo Falls, about 11 miles today. It's a good day hiking. Nice and cool, overcast. Right behind me here is a great big rock ledge with some waterfalls right up there. The campsites on the Ozark Highlands Trail usually have all these rocks around it, and this rock that I'm sitting on right now makes a nice backrest, so there's no need to bring a camp chair along on this trip. So before I set up, I'm going to break open the Doritos, and I need to turn off my Garmin Mini to preserve battery for the rest of the trip. But before I do that, I'm going to check in with my wife and make sure everything's going okay at home. We've gathered a bunch of firewood and processed it, and I think we're ready to rest. So joining us at our campfire tonight, of course, is Krusty. And anytime I think of gathering wood, I think of our next guest. He always tells me that there are 3 ways to warm up when making a campfire: gathering the wood, processing the wood, and enjoying the campfire. Did I mention this is all that we have for a saw? But the star who couldn't be with us in person tonight is the one, the only Hi Toots! Well, hello Jeremy. Hello friends. I love a campfire. Woo! So Toots was planning to come with us on this trip. However, because of the coronavirus, he lives in Thunder Bay, and if he would have come, he would have had to quarantine when he went back to Canada for 14 days. So he's unable to come in person on this trip, but as you can see, Toots is here. It's starting to get dark. I thought I'd show you a little bit around the Hobo Falls campsite before it gets too dark. See Rob's enjoying his dinner by the campfire. We have a nice little creek over here. We have our hammocks set up just beyond, kind of over towards the cliff here. Both Rob and I are in Ridge Runner bridge hammocks, and we have 13-foot custom built
rain flies, mountain fly, rain flies from war bonnet as well. Good morning, it's about 8:45 here on day 2, getting a late start. Slept in a little bit today. The last 2 nights before I started the trip I didn't sleep real well. Of course, before we left for the trip I was a little excited. And then at the hotel I was a little excited again, and it's just a little anxiety about starting a big long trip, and you know, with the epidemic going around, a little bit of stress with that. But slept great last night, nice and warm in the hammock. But we have about 16 miles today, I think. Rob took off. He woke up a little bit earlier than me, got a head start on me. So yeah, we got a long day. I'm gonna try to bang out some miles here this morning. On day 2, we hiked 14 miles from Hobo Falls through the Haw Creek Campground, the Fort Douglas Trailhead, and entered into the Hurricane Creek Wilderness area to camp. One of the things that you need to know when you're out on the Ozark Highland Trail is there are a lot of wet crossings. Whether it be a big river, a small creek, you're gonna have to get your feet wet, and some people will take off their boots at each crossing. What Rob and I do is we have shoes that are not waterproof and that will dry quickly, because there are so many. If you're taking off your shoes at every river crossing, it's going to take a long time. So I have these Salomon Ultras, where basically they're just mesh. The top is just mesh, so they will dry out quickly. And with the wool socks, they dry out quickly. You know, I have these polyester pants that will dry out quickly. If it was a little bit warmer, I'd be wearing shorts. But it's still only probably about 45 degrees out, so I'm kind of forced to wear these pants. I've come to a significant landmark. This is mile 100 of the Ozark Highland Trail. That means that I have hiked 100 miles from Lake Fort Smith up to here over my 3-section hikes. So today I'm about 4 miles in, about 15 miles in on this trip, but kind of cool to get to milestone 100. Wanted to show you here in Arkansas, they have some things that I'm not used to seeing in Minnesota. There's this highway running along here, right? And it goes into this super narrow bridge that is barely wide enough. I don't know if a truck semi could even fit through here, but it's pretty unique. I'm pretty glad this bridge is here because this river is massive, and it's even bigger with the high water right now. Stopped for lunch just on the other side of that river. I found a drainage coming down going into the river, so I found that was a little cleaner, a little easier to grab some water. Filtered some water, making some ramen noodles right now. I have about, I'm not exactly sure how far, I think I have 7 or 8 miles to go. Most of that on the map, it showed that there weren't any creeks. There's probably water from all the rain, but I'm cameling up here, getting some sodium, preparing as though there isn't any water along that trek. Rob I haven't run into. I've been walking pretty slow today, just kind of enjoying it all, shooting a lot of video. It's a beautiful day. It's a little bit warmer than I expected, but that's a good thing. It's perfect weather. Just a while back I walked past mile marker 107, and about halfway between 107 and 108 there is a high water bypass. So Hurricane Creek is down the trail this way, and when the water gets high, so Hurricane Creek is down this way, and it's known for having high water and being impassable, and I've read that even where it is passable, when the water's low, it's super slippery. So high water plus super slippery, I just can't go that way today. So they have this bypass trail that goes this way. We're going to be a little bit farther up on the trail than where we had originally planned to camp, but this bypass is probably about 2 miles shorter than going the regular route. Now these bypass trails are typically less maintained and less traveled, so we'll see if it's any harder to walk, but my guess is this one may be a little bit more traveled since it cuts 2 miles off of the trail. But haven't seen Rob yet. Glad he's making good time. I should be to camp in a little over an hour. Made it down to Hurricane Creek. Look who I found.
It is I. That's all.
How are you feeling there, Krusty?
I feel pretty good. Cardio's good, muscles are good. My feet and ankles, they're just starting to talk to me a little bit. That bypass trail is pretty gnarly on that last descent.
Yeah, it's hard to do something like that when your legs are already kind of tired. So we think we've got probably a quarter, half a mile here to camp. This is a campsite here, but I'm not sure we're back on the main trail yet, so we're going to get up to that campsite and call it good for the day. We made it to our campsite. It's a kind of on a sandy beach here, right next to the river. I found a good spot to hang my hammock. Rob's still scouting it out. This site again has some great rocks that serve really good as chairs. So backrest, kind of a chase lounge here right in front of the fire ring. We are all set up at camp. Rob took a little bath in the river. Let me give you a little tour of the campsite. You can see my hammock over here right next to the river. Rob down there working on a video. Campfire ring right here. Rob's hammock right over there. On day 3, we hiked 9 miles from Hurricane Creek to Fairview Campground in a cold rain. Along the way, we passed Chancel and Boyd Ridge.
It's been a cold, wet morning. It's probably the lower 40s. I've hiked about 6 or 7 miles today. Haven't talked a whole lot because when it's raining like this and cold, once you get moving you start sweating, so I opted to not put any insulation on. But the bad part of that is if I stop I get cold. So I'm not stopping very much, but going through these big rocks, a lot of boulder scrambling. And I thought this would be a good cover. There's just a light mist right now, but I thought I could stay under here, have a little snack. I've got about 3.5 miles to go. And the last 2 miles, it's a pretty big hill. So thought I'd give myself a little energy here. I'm going to show you a little bit of that boulder scrambling that I mentioned. You're hiking through this sort of thing, and it's super slippery with the rain. So I'm being very, very careful. Came to a real scenic waterfall, but there's more of that rock scrambling. Take a hike through here. You can see the waterfall right over here. And this is the rocks I need to scramble over, which usually wouldn't be that bad, but it's really slippery. So, you know, I can't set up a nice shot of me going across the rocks in front of the waterfall because I don't want to do it twice. So I'm going to put the camera away, safely go across these rocks. Made it. That was pretty hairy. Woo. I made it up the hill to Fairview Campground. Been walking around a little bit here. You can see an RV back there. Not really much for a campground. There's a toilet, there's a water pump. That RV's got the one and only picnic table. The ground here is real mossy and spongy. A lot of areas they put some pea gravel in to try soaking that up. But I think I found a spot where both of us could hang our hammocks. A lot of highway noise over there, but it'll only be a mile hike in to the post office tomorrow morning. So this is home for the night. It's only about 1:30, 2 o'clock. I'm gonna take off these cold, wet clothes and maybe get in the hammock where I can warm up. Look who wandered into camp, limped into camp.
Yeah, I'm hurting pretty good.
Krusty has some nasty blisters.
I have one nasty blister, and it's the worst blister I've ever had in my whole life.
So it's about 6:30. As you can see from my breath, it's cold out. It's probably about 42 degrees. Stopped raining, but it's real wet out. 90% humidity, fog. A couple other groups here at the campground, mainly nomadic type people.
It's an RV from Utah, and we were down spending some time with some of our neighbors here. Young couple. They usually sell merch. They're talking about selling merch at Grateful Dead, and real nice. But you can imagine Grateful Dead and Dreads, that sort of thing. But real nice people, and hanging out with them. And Rob has decided, due to his nasty blisters, that he's not going to be able to keep on hiking. So tomorrow morning, the plan is tomorrow morning, I'm going to walk into the post office, and I'm hoping with this pandemic that I'm still able to get my resupply box. If I can, I am going to continue hiking by myself, and Rob is going to get a ride from our new friends about an hour away to where my car is parked, and he's going to meet up with me at a couple spots and camp out. So we'll see how I'm feeling in the morning, and we'll see if I can get that resupply so I can keep on hiking. Good morning, everyone. It's about 7:45, making the road walk for about a mile into Pelsor to pick up my resupply. It's a cool morning, but it's not supposed to rain today, so we'll see how things go. In old guidebooks, it says that the Hankins General Country Store is here. However, it's been closed for years, so don't plan on that for a resupply. Post office is right across the street here. We'll see if it's open yet. So the post office was open. I was a little worried that I might not be able to get the resupply with the COVID-19 and everything kind of being shut down, but got my honey bun, got my Gatorade. Life is good. On day 4, I walked a mile down the highway for a resupply. After returning, I solo hiked an additional 17 miles from Fairview to Falling Water Creek. Back on the trail. Just said goodbye to Rob. So he's catching a ride up to the Ben-Hur trailhead, and I'm going to be hiking. It's about 10 or 11 miles up to there. Kind of limited. I'd like to hike a little bit farther, but there's a little bit of a gap where that's the closest area in the 10 to 15 mile range that he can camp at. So he's catching a ride. I'm walking. Should take me a couple, or probably 5 hours to get there, and we'll meet up there. But forecast is for overcast and in the 50s today, which should make for some good hiking. Maybe some thunderstorms rolling in early tomorrow morning though, so we'll see what happens. Take it day by day. You may be asking yourself, why is he walking like a grandma so gingerly across the stream? It isn't that deep. Well, all of these streams, this one particular is one big sheet of rock, and that rock
is covered with an algae and a green slime that makes it super slippery. So you have to be super careful with every step to make sure that you don't slip. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that I hate snakes. And look what I just about stepped on. I made it across that swift moving water right there, a little bit over my knees. Took everything I had to maintain my balance using my hiking poles. So I only have about a mile to go to where I'm supposed to meet Rob, and I'm thinking about going a little bit farther, but we'll see what happens. I made it to the Ben-Hur trailhead. Still feeling pretty good. See, Rob is here. So this is just a trailhead without an actual campsite at it, which we could stealth camp here fine. But I'm feeling pretty good, and there is another campsite about 3.5 miles up the trail. Rob took a lot of my crap, lightened up the load. Gonna hit the trail for another 3.5 miles. How you feeling now, Mr. Shower?
I feel awesome. I feel clean. I took a nice hot shower. I smell good. My blister is still pretty nasty.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, I smell good.
Yeah, he's still exposing his...
I got a Band-Aid on it just so it doesn't rub against everything. Got to keep it clean.
Yeah. All right, no time to chit-chat. Let's go. So I made it up to our camp spot. There's just a short little road walk here, and I found Rob parked along the road. The campsite that was on the trail map. I got into camp, and Rob was here already. And he had brought most of my stuff down here and had my hammock all set up, and just putting out our rain flies right now. I suppose I can forgive you for eating some of my Doritos.
So good.
On day 5, I headed out alone from Falling Waters Creek and hiked a wet and slippery 14 miles to Stacked Rocks.
I've come to a prescribed burn area. It's for the Big Point area. As you can see, it says 4,000 acres, but the burn was almost a month ago. So no mention of it being blocked. I see that there were some do not cross lines that are broken. So we're on our way. Couple miles in. It's in the 50s. It's a real wet, misty day. It's not raining, but there's just a mist in there that's making everything wet, and it's a little bit difficult traction because I'm hiking through all these rocks right now. So it's a little slow going, and it's kind of frustrating that the trail's winding in and out of these little hollers or valleys, and
You know, in this burn area, you can see the trails going up one side, and you can see on the other side you got to come back, and it's tempting to just not bushwhack and cross over and take a shortcut. That and the fact that I can still see the road down there by where we camped on. So I've probably hiked a few miles, and you know, if I would have just taken the road there, it would have been a lot easier. But that's not part of backpacking, is it? So I don't know, I got about 10 miles to go here. We got to keep on moving. I've come to an overlook that would typically be very scenic. However, it's very overcast and you can't see very far today. I've come to another one of these unique little one-lane bridges. It's hard to tell if the rivers are high or not, but it sure is beautiful here. So I've been hiking for over 60 some miles now, and I've just seen millions and millions of these things, and I don't know what they are. I'm not very good at plant identification. If you know what they are, comment down below and let me know. So when I get to these hollers with water running down, and I'm pretty sure it's heavier water than it usually has because of all the rain, I need to evaluate where is the best place to cross, and this one is a little tricky. There may be a place to cross over there. There's a big deep pool of water here. This looks like it might be a good place to cross, but I'm a little concerned about right there, and if I slip, it's about a 15-foot waterfall right there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk out to that big rock and evaluate from there if I can get across or if I need to go up here. Okay, I've hiked about 100 yards up this creek through some pretty difficult rocks, but I think I've found a better place to cross here. Spot right here, there's a little bit of a gap I'm gonna have to jump, but if I do slip and fall, you know, it's just a 4-foot drop into a pool here. So worst case scenario is I just get soaked. It's not that cold out today, so I'm not too worried about that, but down there I was more worried about really hurting myself if I fell in the creek on the rocks. So, you may be asking, why is he being so cautious? And I think I've mentioned it before, but these rocks are super slippery, and I don't like to just jump off of 1 foot and land on 1 foot. I always like to kind of have 3 points of contact. So, that and just being a solo backpacker, you know, if I get hurt out here, you know, I have my Garmin, but I don't want to do that. So here we go. I made it. I actually didn't go that route that I showed you before I started. I got out there and I saw a little place down creek a little bit where the water was about thigh high, but it looked pretty calm. And you know, if I fell there, I just fall down and get wet. So, but I made it across. It pays to be patient and not take a risk while I'm out here. So let's keep on hiking. 150. Sun's out. Starting to warm up. Been going up a hill for a while, so that it's feeling really warm, but once I stop and get to camp up here, this weather's gonna be beautiful. But I'm just starting to get my trail legs. I can smell the finish line. That might be a different smell, I guess, but almost there. So I was almost here, and my Garmin just beeped that I got a text on it.
looked at it. There's a text from Rob saying, dude, the road is washed out. I can't get up to stacked rocks. And as you saw, I was sweating a lot going up that hill, and I drank a lot of water. I hardly have any water left. Sat up on the top of the mountain here, sat down, looked at a map, and this road that Rob's supposed to be coming up was super long, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna end up road walking for another 10 miles to find Rob. Sat down, got cell phone coverage. I called Rob, and I'm like, dude, where are you? He says, I'm here. I'm sitting down there. I'm like, no, I'm here. Well, Rob sent me those texts about 3 hours ago, and he made it to camp. And look what he's holding in his hand. Look what he's holding in his hand. Woo! Water. Crisis averted. But he said he went down to Woolum and the road was washed out down there, and there's no way I'm crossing it. Maybe you can describe what it looked like, Rob.
I videoed quite a bit of it, so you can hop over onto my channel, check out my video, and you can see how it is and the stuff I went through trying to coordinate with him.
Wow, that takes a lot of gall right there.
The road was washed out. The roads all up in these mountains are very bad. I'm driving Jeremy's car, and it was shiny just a few hours ago. Almost, I drove off a small ledge. Almost slid off the mountain once.
You know, I know you're depressed about not being able to finish the hike, but do you really need to drive my car off a ledge?
I drove through like 4 rivers.
Yeah, so, yeah, Kia Optima. Who needs a great big Jeep like Toots, huh? So tell me what Woolum River, am I going to be able to walk across it tomorrow?
The Woolum River is basically like the Mississippi River right now. So unless you want to go for a full-fledged swim and end up a quarter mile to a half a mile downstream from where you started, go for it.
Little current?
Yeah, and it's deep.
So the bad news is, I guess my hike is done. I guess that's bad news. My feet are kind of sore, but I really wanted to finish, and I was kind of getting my trail legs today. Almost felt like a thru hiker.
Corona. So what do your feet look like after you've been hiking for 5 days? It's not pretty.
The trip didn't go quite as we had planned. You had to cut out a little early because of your blister.
Yep.
But, you know, I think you had an exciting day today.
I had an exciting day, a stressful day, but it still ended right where we planned to meet. Obviously, this wasn't the original plan, but after, you know, having a little injury and kind of going with the flow, that's all you can do. The best laid plans will change somehow when they did on this trip.
I mean, you got to be flexible when you go out on these trips. That's kind of what makes them fun, is they don't always go as planned. So, it was a great trip, buddy.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for shuttling some of my gear around so I didn't have to carry it all, and thanks for waiting for me until I got here. But it was a great trip. If you haven't, subscribe to my channel, hit that bell notification, check out Rob's channel, rpelton1, and we'll see you back out on the trail.
Do you want to get that?
Please.
He can't get up.
Hi, how are you?